Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Chapter 4.2 Help Notes for Nahmad and Haywood, a New Arabic Grammar. In the previous video we finished off with this slide, which talked about the geometric Olympics, and we had the three shapes in a mixed race, and we talked about their position at the end of the race, the ranks they achieve, first, second or third, and then depending on the shape, curved shapes or straight edge shapes, we work out what medal to give them. Hence that winner there, instead of getting gold, gets silver because they are a circular shape. We said so the equivalent of first place, second place or third place in nouns or words which we are studying here in chapter 4 are rafa', nasb, jar. So raf is equivalent to the first place, nasb is equivalent to second, and jar is equivalent to third. So we're going to draw up a parallel table, and we're going to develop parallel concepts utilizing the analogy of geometric shapes. For nouns, instead of rank, first, second and third, we have the concept of hal or case, and the first place is called rafa', the second place is equivalent to nasb, and the third place is jar. There are no fourth and fifth places. Every noun has to be one of these three. When we talk about our geometric Olympics, we said that position of a shape at the end of the race on the finish line determines the rank. So what determines the case or hal of a noun? If it was position, then that would be easy. We just have first, second and third, but then we would have problems for nouns in the fourth and fifth position. It's not position, instead it is action. What is the action of a noun in a sentence? Arab grammarians like to talk about something called an amil and ma'mul, something which acts upon that word and the word which is acted upon. That's slightly complicated, so what I've done is I've just simplified it into action. So, to summarize, in our geometric shapes we had the position at the end of the race which had determined the rank, but with nouns we ask ourselves, what is the action of a word, that noun, in a sentence? What is it doing? So, what are the possible actions? In order to understand the actions, we have to go back to chapter 3 and the different types of uses of nouns. Here is the simple A is B sentences, or what we call al-jumla al-ismiya, the nominal sentence. So we usually have a word is another word. A is B. Let's give some examples. Here we have the Nile River, a river, an-nahru, an-nahr, and we have a ruler signifying that it's very long, طويل. So if we wanted to say an-nahr is طويل, we would just put the two words together and we would get an-nahr طويل. I'm deliberately not saying the endings because we'll explain what that has to do with this table in a moment. The river is long. الشارع, there's the street, is supposed to be narrow, ضيق. الشارع is ضيق. So we put that together and we get الشارع ضيق. The street is narrow. Remember, we talked about this no man's land, and that's where we put the is. And finally, a third example. Al-ard is wide. Al-ard is wasi'ah. Al-ard wasi'ah. The earth is wide. So if we look at these basic sentences, we have one word on the right, what we could call the A, the first word, and in Arabic we call this word al-mubtada, something literally which we begin with. In English grammars it's called the subject. The hal of the mubtada is always rafa' if it is a single noun, and we call the word itself marfu'. Think of the analogy of first and second place. The rank is number one, but the person in the rank is first. Likewise, if the rank is number two, the person in the rank is second. Likewise here, the rank is rafa', but the noun itself is marfu'. So what we're going to use the last letter in both these words as a short form to remember what is the hal of the word, ayn. So the ayn stands for marfu'. The reason we don't use the first letter with abbreviations in Arabic, or we try not to, is sometimes a lot of the words begin with the same letter, and so it would be confusing. Now let's look at the second word that makes part of this sentence. That's the B word. We call this al-khabar, or the predicate. And the hal of the predicate is also always rafa' if it is a single noun. And the word itself is marfu'. And as a short form, we use the letter ayn. So, putting these three sentences together, النهر طويل, الشارع ضيق, الأرض واسعة, all these words are al-mubtada. And all these words are the khabar. And all these words will be marfu', 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 or halat al-raf', halat al-raf', halat al-raf'. Likewise, because these words are the khabar, they will also be in halat al-raf', raf', raf', or the word itself is marfu', marfu', marfu'. So, let's go back to our table here. We've now worked out what determines where the position is in the ayn position, or marfu', or rafa'. If a word is a mubtada, or a word is a khabar, utilizing these symbols to remind ourselves, then it automatically, that noun is marfu', or in the ayn position, first position. So we still have to fill in what goes into the second and third position. Let's look at some more examples. Here we have a bird looking down at a juicy worm. Ra'a, he saw, dudah, worm. And that word impacts straight into this word. Another example. Akala, he ate grass, al-ushb. So you can see the word akala exactly impacts or hits the word al-ushb. Akala al-ushb. And here is an animal drinking water. Shariba, he drank, ma, water. Put the two words together, we get a sentence. Shariba ma. So, let's analyze these basic sentences. We have on the right the arrow signifies the verb, and the blue box with the indent signifies the noun upon which the verb is acting. We call this noun maf'ulun bihi, maf'ulun bihi, or in English the object. Maf'ulun bihi literally means that which is acted upon. Its hal is always nasb, and a noun which is in the hal of nasb is called mansub. And guess what letter we're going to use to abbreviate this? It'll be the last letter, ba, ba. So let's look at these three sentences together again. Ra'a duda, akala al-ushb, shariba ma. Ra'a, akala, shariba are all verbs, and we're not dealing with that at this moment in time. But these three words, duda, al-ushb, and ma, are all receiving the direct impact of this verb. Ra'a duda, akala ushb, shariba ma. And these three words are called maf'ulun bihi, and they will always be in the hal, the nasb hal. And the word itself is mansub, mansub, mansub. So, we can fill in another bit of our table here. We're still in the position bit, the equivalent of the position bit with nouns. And we're talking about the action of a word. So we met mubtada and khabar. The mubtada and khabar are always marfu'. And a word which is acted upon by a verb is called maf'ulun bihi, and it is always mansub. So we're just left with one more to fill in. Look at this. We have a pen and it's inside a box. Al-qalam fi al-ulba. Put the words together and you get that kind of al-qalamu fil ulba. Another word. Here we have some leaves. Al-awraq in fi cup. Finjan. الأوراق في فنجان. And here we have a man in a beautiful farm. الرجل في المزرعة. Put them together, you get الرجل في المزرعة. Okay, let's analyze these three sentences. القلم في العلبة. الأوراق في فنجان. الرجل في المزرعة. في المزرعة. These three words, القلم, الأوراق, الرجل, are all nouns and they begin a sentence, and I'm telling you that they are the mubtada or the subject. We're going to ignore these three little words, except that we know that they're called harf jar, or particles in English. We've met the particle fi in these three examples, which means in. And the noun that is governed or acted upon by a particle is called ism majroor, or a genitive noun. Al-ulba, finjan, and al-mazra'a. The genitive noun, so if we just look at this example here, the triangle represents the harf jar, and the blue means a noun, and it's a noun being acted upon by a harf jar. And we use the letter ra as a abbreviation. So let's just go through this. This is called ism majroor, and its hal is jar, and the noun is majroor. Remember, the hal is like the rank, first, second, third, and majroor is first, second, third. So the noun itself is majroor, but the place it occupies, i.e. the hal, is jar. And we use the letter ra because it's the last letter occurring in these two words to signify the abbreviation for that hal. And this is the harf jar. So let's go back to our table and have a look here. We have now got an example in every category. So which words become marfu, mubtada, and khabar? Which words become mansub, the maf'ulun bihi, a word being acted upon by a verb? And which words become majroor, ism majroor, i.e. a word being acted upon or being sat on top of by a harf jar? And then once you know which position what the action of a noun is, you can then tell it the case and whether it is rafa', nasb, or jar. So this comes to the end of this lesson. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And in the next video we'll continue filling in the boxes.